Hey there, I'm Anthony McGowan. Welcome. We're going to talk about work and the loneliness epidemic. Here's some things we're going to answer in this video. What can we learn from a burrito? What is anonymous work? At the end of this video, you will understand why workplace belonging and socialization are fundamental to business performance. Let me tell you a story about a burrito. There was a judge in Ohio a few years ago who had a case in front of him where a woman was charged with assault. She'd gone into a quick service restaurant, she had ordered a burrito on her phone, she picked it up, it wasn't to her liking. So she asked them to remake it. And they did. And then it still wasn't to her liking. And this fully grown adult human, it wasn't a social issue, a political issue, it wasn't involving social media. When the second making of the burrito was not done correctly, she looked at it, she picked it up, and she threw it at the person who made it. So the judge said, this is assault. I could technically give her jail time. But I'm seeing more and more of these cases. Something is happening. Humans are falling apart. I've got assaults in emergency rooms. I've got unruly passengers on airlines. People are ripping apart displays in department stores. Something's going on. And he also knew the research that we've had like a 30-year decline in empathy. So he said to himself, instead of giving her jail time, I'm going to give her what I call the empathy sentence. And he sentenced her to work in the quick service restaurant and take the incoming burritos for 6 months. Now, why do I tell that story? Because I think the burrito is a canary in the coal mine. It is telling us that something is happening with humans. Humans are flipping out. And why is it? It's because we're in the middle of this loneliness epidemic and we don't have normal coping skills. So let's look at some of the data. So let's talk about how work grew. So how do we create community? We create community according to Arthur Brooks in 4 ways. So we have family, like social gatherings. We have religious affiliations, which are faith. We have clubs, we're in friends. And then we have career and work. And that collectively created our community. But let's look what's happened over the last 50 years. In 1975, 71% of us belonged to a church or religious organization. The last time I took this was 2020, and that's when 47% of us belong. That's a pretty dramatic line. It's the lowest level of church membership or religious affiliation since Pew's been tracking. 30% of us, we're spending 30% more time alone than we did just a couple of decades ago, and 3 to 5 times as many of us are living alone. 3 times as many of us over 65 are living alone, 5 times as many of us across the boards are living alone. And we've seen a 50 to 70% decline in club membership over the last 50 years. They've all but disappeared. Boys and girl clubs, book clubs, that kind of thing. What's happened is we've had a colossal decline in trust in each other and trust in government, and work has come in to fill that void. So you hear more and more people say, I need to express my whole authentic self at work, or I need my work to express my values, because they're looking for work to be more and more of meaning for them. The other thing that's happened is we're in the middle of a friendship recession. In a recent screening, they asked folks, how many friends do you have? Do you have none? Do you have 1 to 5, or do you have 5 or more? Now, I don't know if you're like me, but when you go to your doctors, they do a screen now, and they ask you, how many glasses of wine do you have in a week? And I say, 7. And then I say, teen under my breath, right? None of us tell the truth on that one. What do you think is the most underreported statistic next to how much alcohol you have a week? And I think that's friends. How many people are going to say, I don't have any friends? Right now, 8% of folks report not having friends. That's got to be tremendously underreported. So they guess that that's more like 20+%. Now, if you look at the last time they did this, which was in 1990, 3% of folks said they had no friends. 53% of folks have 1 to 5 friends, and 38% of folks have more than 5 friends. What does this mean to work? Well, when you don't have friends, you have lower work engagement, you have lower trust, you have poorer collaboration, you have overall poor performance, poor levels of creativity and innovation. When it comes to learning, you have weaker peer motivation, you have lower levels of curiosity, you have lower levels of resilience. So if you don't have friends, you're less likely to persist through your education, which is often a precursor for work. Personality and thriving, you have higher levels of stress, early levels of mortality, less life satisfaction across the boards. So friends have a really important place in our life in terms of work, education, and overall thriving. So let's talk about anonymous work. Anonymous work is work where nobody knows your name. About half of the US does some sort of gig work. That's work on a platform, and it can be anonymous, a lot of it is anonymous. About 20 million people exclusively do gig work. That's work where nobody knows your name. These platforms on which gig work is done have grown more than 400% in the last 10 years. They're expected to only grow 20% over the next 10 years because of the boom that's already taken place. But anonymous work is a section of the population that is getting very low socialization. Let's talk about the power of hearing your name. When you hear your name, you get a boost in attention, you get emotional resonance, you get improved engagement, and you get increased focus. So I give folks a challenge. When you're working with people across the boards, if you know someone's name, say it. If you are having an interaction, micro interactions matter. Getting into your Uber, you know your Uber driver's name, it's on your phone, say their name. Say, hi John, thanks for picking me up today. How are you doing? How long's your shift been? When you're checking out at the grocery store, somebody's wearing a name badge saying, hey Mary, thanks for bagging my groceries. Thanks to see you today. You're checking into a hotel. Say people's name. There's a lot of people who never hear their name, and saying your name lights up so many parts of your brain. Let's talk about what work loneliness has to do with our adaptive capacity, because what we do in work, so much of it has to do with the rate of change that we have is our ability to learn and adapt, particularly to market changes. When we're lonely, we have threat vigilance. Ambiguity feels dangerous. We have impaired cognitive flexibility and reduced executive function. So we're poor at making decisions. We're challenged at considering alternative pathways. We're less able to make decisions with imperfect information. That's today, isn't it? We have reduced social learning and we avoid social risk. So it becomes sort of a self-reinforcing loop. Once we become isolated, we don't feel the muscle memory or the ability to get out there again. It erodes psychological safety and makes it difficult for teams to adapt. It weakens resilience overall and it weakens our adaptive coping. So when we look at loneliness and work, it really reduces our ability to be creative, be adaptive, make decisions with imperfect information, imagine different outcomes, because we have a heightened threat response and we're very reactive. So this is one of the really important reasons I think we have to look at loneliness at work, not only as a society, but also as business performance. On that note, my name is Heather McGowan. If you click on the link below, it will take you to my next talk, Work Loneliness and Employee Performance. Thanks.